everyone. Welcome to another episode of Decoded by Tero AI, where we interview leaders from the customer support and customer experience space and unpack their journey and get their perspective on how technology is making an impact today and making their jobs easier. Today, I have with me Rachel from Iterable. She's had a very diverse career over the last decade, and we'll get into that more. Yeah, Rachel, great to have you here. Would be great if you could introduce yourself and a bit about Iterable, the role that you play.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ma, for having me. It's good to see you. It's been a while, I think, since earlier this year. So I'm great to see you. Thank you for having me here. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Wu. I'm a senior manager of technical support at Iterable. I've been here for 6 years now in the customer support space, and Iterable is a customer marketing platform where we help our customers activate their data to send personalized dynamic messages to their users. So it's been really exciting being on the support side of things here because it's so interesting seeing all of the really creative and awesome marketing campaigns that our customers have and they come up with and create design. And it's amazing to see them executed on our platform. Yeah,
Awesome,
I'm
Rachel.
really excited
Thanks
to be
so
here
much.
today.
Yeah, great. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Maybe to kickstart, I'd love to know a bit more. I think you've had a very diverse career in the sense that you started as a developer, right? And then you transitioned to sales and then to customer support. It's something that you typically see in terms of transitions. So curious to know more about what got you interested to make these transitions and into the customer support space as well.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's been a very diverse is a very nice way to put it. I think at the time I was very it seemed a little bit crazy to me, but it's as you mentioned. So I started working as a software engineer, front end web developer, actually. And when I was in that role, I found myself talking to computers 40 hours a week, and I kind of didn't really like that. And so after one of my roles, I was laid off from that role, and at first it felt devastating. But I realized I can go to whatever I want now, and so I went into retail sales because I felt that was going to be the fastest way to just start talking to people again. And so
Yeah.
I worked in retail, selling skincare for a little bit, and then and knowing folks. I got into software sales. A friend introduced me into software sales. And that was so interesting to go back to sell from that point of view.
Mhm.
But in that role, I realized I didn't like talking to people as much as I thought I did 40 hours a week. And so after a very open and honest conversation with my manager at the time, he said, hey, have you thought about technical support? And that was just an amazing opportunity. I transitioned into technical support. And I felt that was the perfect 50-50 blend between talking to people and talking to computers. I get to solve problems every day, and it's just been history since then.
That's amazing. I think it sort of ties in both of your experiences very well. You
Absolutely.
probably have a deep understanding of and empathy with the problems that people face, and you're able to solve that. Right? And I think it's been close to 6 years now in that journey, moving into technical support. So what's exciting for you in the space? And you've sort of stuck and grown into the space further. So what keeps you going?
So customer support, I loved it because it's as I mentioned, I get to talk to people, but then I also get to learn about the platform, learn about the platform that I'm working on, and solve problems. I think that was so fun for me, being able to solve problems. No two problems are really the same, therefore no 2 days were the same, and that is just so interesting to me. And so that's what's keeping me excited about customer support.
Awesome. And you mentioned, I think we discussed this even at support when you want to talk on this, how to look at premier support. So maybe you could touch a bit upon what does premier support mean? How is it, let's say, same or different from regular support, when we're talking about. So just for the audience to get context of what premier support is.
Exactly. So support at Iterable in general, while Iterable is an easy platform to use, there's so much that goes on under the hood. So support is there to help demystify that and just find out what's going on underneath the hood for our customers. And so Premier support is going to be different from the other tiers of support that we offer at Iterable. Premier support is the highest tier. that we have where customers are paired with, every Premier customer has a named Premier support agent, a named, tenured senior agent to work with to help with all of their questions as the main point of contact for support. And this gives the opportunity for Premier agents and Premier customers to work together in a deep relationship and execute, complex use cases of Iterable to help the customer achieve their marketing goals. And so it's that kind of that pairing together that really allows them to work in a deep partnership to make things reality.
Got it. And you mentioned that there are different tiers of support. So can you talk a bit about the structure of support at Iterable? Like, how is it structured? What are the tiers that's available?
Yes, absolutely. So support-wise, we have 3 tiers of support at Iterable. We have Standard, Plus, and Premier. Each one, so if we have Standard, Plus includes everything from Standard. Premier includes everything from Plus and Standard. And there's, each tier has different support hours. So hours that customers can access support, different channels in which they can access support, and then also different number of people who can access it as well. And so our support team is broken up into our tier 1 agents, our Premier agents, and our tier 2 agents. And that way, so our tier 1 agents work with everybody on Plus and Standard and Plus, and then also some Premier. And our Premier agents work primarily with our Premier customers. And that's kind of how that works out. And then both of these teams escalate to our tier 2 team.
Got it. I have a couple of questions on this. One is when it comes to Premier support, like compared to, let's say, tier 1 or the Standard Plus, is it more proactive in nature, or like, just trying to understand like what does Premier actually entail that's different from the other 2 tiers?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it's going to come down to the relationship that Premier agents build with their Premier customers. So because you work with the same people, you get to know how they communicate, and most importantly, they get to know really the business. So Premier agents really understand the business that their customers have and really understand the context. And so one big plus is that customers never have to repeat themselves. They're just like, hey, remember that question that I asked last week? Or like, hey, remember this really big campaign that we're running right now? I have a question on that. Like, can you help me again with this? So a big plus is context. And then another thing, yes, we are trying to be more proactive. So because our agents know their customers a lot better, we understand like, oh, this kind like journeys are really important to them. So we want to make sure that if there's an issue with this, that we know right away that the Premier agent should escalate for whatever reason and get eyes on that. We also have dashboards, Datadog dashboards built for some of our customers that are specific to the data that we have on them that our Premier agents can use and help out that way. We're trying to go in a direction of getting alerts on them so that we can truly be proactive. And so that's been a really exciting work in progress.
Got it. Yeah, so maybe I think like context so that, there's that relationship that's built and you get more personalized and more proactive support, as a customer. So that's great. And the second question I had around this was, given you have customers globally, so is this team remote? Like, and do you map based on geography? I'm just trying to understand because it must be very challenging to get a quality team together across the globe. So how is it structured?
Yeah, that is a really great question. All of our Premier agents are based in the different offices in which we have Iterable offices. Okay. So we have Premier agents in London, based in the London time zone. We have agents based in the Eastern time zone in the United States. And then we also have agents based in the Pacific time zone in the United States. And when we do have Premier customers who are signed up and they need their agent, we ask them what time zone they want their Premier agent. And most of our customers operate in one of these 3 time zones or close to it. Okay. So they pick one of those. And so the idea is, one of the benefits that Premier customers get is they get access to support 24/7. Obviously, they cannot, their agent that they work with does not work 24/7, but that's the reason we make sure that their operating hours match with their Premier agent's operating hours so that a majority of their time is spent with their Premier agent. And when customers do have questions outside of those hours, then they can go to the rest of our team on a different channel on chat.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I know this is one of the questions. So, like, how can customers reach today, like in terms of support? Is it just chat or Slack, or like do you have different ways that they reach out to you?
Yeah, that's a great segue into this. Just like, what am I talking
Yeah.
about? So the different channels that customers can reach out to Iterable support are email, live chat, or messaging, and Slack. So all of our Premier customers have a Slack channel or an MS team, which they can use to talk to their Premier support agent. And so this is usually where most Premier customers live, like in Slack. And Slack is really great because it's a tool that most people know how to use, and it's like an instant messaging app. And so the idea for that, it's supposed to feel like you can just tag your Premier agent the same way you can tag a coworker, so you can get your answer. Like, hey, so and so, I have a question on this. Do you have a second? Yeah, I do. What's going on?
Got
And
it.
so there's that. And then we also have live chat. We use Zendesk. So we use Zendesk for both our messaging, live chat / messaging, and email.
Okay. Awesome.
And then we also do have phone. We do offer phone, but not too many people use it. But that is something that we do have available.
Got it. Okay. And it's phone across the board or only for Premier support customers?
Great question. Only for Premier.
Okay. Okay. Got it. The other question I have is before getting into AI stuff, like, one of the problems that, when we speak to customers as well is that, it's about how do we maintain quality as the company scales or gets more customers, right? So, Iterable, like, how do you approach this problem? Like, how do you, what steps do you take to ensure high quality customer support as Iterable scales and keeps adding more customers?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And I really think that it starts from hiring, making sure that the person you're bringing in to the team matches exactly what you're looking for in different ways. So at Iterable on the support team, we make sure that not only the initial screening, but also our one-on-one interviews, the on-site panels are structured to look for competencies that match our company values. Well, one, we look for competencies to make sure you can do the work, but also make sure that these questions are based around our company values of growth mindset, trust, humility, and balance. And so regarding those technical competencies, while work experience is very important, we do follow the STAR philosophy, which is skills obtained through alternative routes. Because many support skills can be gained in other places, such as the classroom, in restaurants, things like that. And so we believe that you can be very successful without actually having a tech support job in the tech industry. And so that's where we find these really wonderful people. And then after that, we work hard to make sure that our onboarding process is comprehensive yet quick, so that we can get people onboarded onto the platform, learn something new as soon as possible, as soon as they can. And we encourage our support team members to keep documentation and our knowledge base updated so that we can keep updated and that new members who join can keep updated as well.
Awesome. I'm very curious about the start philosophy.
Yeah.
Can you give me purely from if let's say we had to hire in the future and trying to understand how do you look at some of the qualities through this? And from what I understand, it's about trying to understand how they've developed a skill set, not through their career path, but something that they did outside of it, like through alternate routes, right? So any examples that you could share? Or how do you check this in an interview as well? So curious to know. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's say, for example, you're hiring for a support role. You want someone in your tier 1 team. A huge thing with a huge part of support and a huge skill you have to have is the ability to explain things to the person, to a customer, someone that you're working with, and have the patience to do that. And so one way you can find that out in your interview is the question, asking questions like, tell me about a time when. So tell me about a time when you had to explain something to someone who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And and be open, like just any experience you have ever had. It doesn't necessarily have to be from your last job. It could be from that time you worked at the restaurant, anything like that. And then that way it gives the interview candidate a chance to tell you like, well, there was one time that I was a teacher. And so everyone in my classroom had no idea what I was talking about. And so they can tell you about the time they were able to teach folks or like, there was a time that I was a waiter. My restaurant had a very unique way of serving people. And so I had to explain to somebody how they can order here or how things work here. And so that's how they have the skill to explain things to people that they've explained teach something to someone that they've never learned before. And they learned it through an alternative route, not exactly at a corporate company.
Really amazing. I think that also brings together a very unique set of like team members. So like something for me to note down and try it out as well next time. Cool. So getting into the topic of like, have you guys started using AI at Iterable? And how has the experience been? Given the last 2 years, customer service is one area where there's a lot of hype around AI, and that's also a space where AI adoption is the most. What's been your experience at Iterable, and what's been the general approach as well?
So question is AI at Iterable, like what is it, how have we been using it? So we currently use AI in a few places. So starting with the customer experience, we currently have a chatbot for standard customers, which we use Ada as our chatbot on top of Zendesk. And that has generative responses or generative AI that we use to generate responses for customers. And that's for those on standard who don't usually have access to chat. We also use AI in the manager experience. So for things like we use a tool to aggregate like ticket data for reporting, sentiment scores, impact scores, things like that. And then we also have it in our agent experience. This is more recent. So I just started implementing Zendesk AI. And some of the biggest things we're trying to get our team to adopt is summary. So summarizing the ticket so that agents can really understand really quickly, okay, this is what's going on with the ticket. And then also helping with responses, but not like writing it for them, but more like fixing the formatting. So I think it's called in Zendesk AI, it's called like expand. So it's like you can write down whatever notes you already have and then click expand, and then it'll like format it into actual sentences for the agent.
Yeah. Interesting. And how has the experience been for each of these? Like, because with AI, it can hallucinate and it could be like data privacy concerns. So, what are some apprehensions and how did you approach it at Iterable to address those?
Definitely. So for things like generative responses, like things where we have to feed things into the AI and they have to give us an answer, we do want to make sure that the information is accurate. So like I mentioned, like Iterable is easy to use, but it is very complicated. There's a lot you can do. And so we do have a long period of, like, for example, if we're talking about the chatbot, like generative responses, in anything we do have a long period of testing to make sure that the information that we're getting is accurate and what we expect it to be. So a lot of our apprehension is just like making sure, like being able to trust the tool and the information that we're trusting the tool that we use to give us the right information that we can trust to give to our customers. So, and then also with an internal process, so like within the manager experience, like we want to make sure that the sentiment scores are correct, for example. Like we want to make sure that impact scores are correct. So if we want to be able to use it as a performance metric, we have to make sure that we can trust it before we can actually use it.
And this is more a question for, since you've gone through this, like, let's say testing phase, what can platforms like, whether it's Ada, Zendesk, or like us or anyone, what can be done better to help you reduce the time to like take it to production? Like, were there some thoughts on, hey, I wish we could get to this answer faster, for example?
So I think your question was like, because we do such long periods of testing, like how can you help us get the answer we need faster? That is a great question. So when we do testing, we basically just look through a bunch of example tickets to make sure that, hey, this is what I think is correct. This is what I think isn't correct. Or like, hey, this is technically correct, but it doesn't fit our use case. I think being able to understand what we need and being able to be like, hey, we can do that. Here's some more data. Like being able to get us, being able to give us as much data as possible so we can make decisions faster. I think that'll really help. I know it's
got it. Yeah. Okay.
Might not be easy, but that's it.
Yeah. And do you test this internally, or do you expose it to few customers and test it in production before rolling it out to everyone? How do you stage it? Yeah.
My support ops person would give me a very strong lecture if we went straight to production. So we always test in sandbox first.
Okay.
We always want to make sure that that the experience is going as we expect. So we always test in sandbox first.
Yeah.
Before pushing it to production. I know there are some things that have to be done in production. So for example, Zendesk AI, like that is done.
Mm-hmm.
That exists in our production, and it's just kind of gleaning data. So I think it depends. Like if it's taking data and it's not giving anything to the customer, I guess you can skip testing in Sandbox, but we always test in Sandbox first.
Got it. And now that you have these in production, how do you measure impact? To say that AI is actually adding value or making it easier or improving customer experience. Are there some KPIs that you as a team look at?
Yeah. So we're actually in the middle of that right now. We're trying to determine, is AI working for us as we want it to? So I do have numbers for you, or I do have an answer for you in terms of our chatbot. So for Ada, one thing we use there is just the deflection rate. So, a customer types into Ada, they have a question, and we're able to tell how many times they don't need to go to a live agent, or they don't need a live agent via opening a ticket. So, and that would be the deflection rate. So if the deflection rate is increasing, that means that we know that the answers that the bot is giving to customers is working, and that they don't have any further questions. Their question has been answered, and it's doing a good job. And I mean, we train it a lot too. So we had support agents train the Ada model, give answers, check on things, and make sure that it is given the right answers to be able to give to customers. And so we can tell it's doing well based on the deflection rate.
Got it. And have the roles changed since the time AI has come in terms of, like you mentioned, the support agents also spend time training the AI, and I think support ops is also looking at some of these things. We've seen in some companies there's now a dedicated person for knowledge management or AI training. So in the last year or so, have those roles come up or taken more bandwidth? Curious to know more on that.
Yeah, so to answer your question, unfortunately, not yet. So far, most of the people who are checking these things and working on these tools, there's going to be the managers, and then also our support operations manager. We haven't expanded too much to be able to have someone dedicated to this. I do know something we do want in the future is someone on the support team that is dedicated to working on our knowledge base for the team. We would also love an enablement role as well, but we just haven't been able to get that, and we don't really need it yet. So right now, all the managers are filling in that spot, and then and because we want to test it first to make sure agents are using it, and because they are spending their time working with our customers. So when we do ask for their time, we make sure that it's important. It's like, hey, this is the reason why I need your time. I need you to test this, and if I don't need them, then I don't need them.
With AI, there's a lot of discussion on AI, is going to replace jobs and, so on. But I mean, our take is that AI actually helps support teams, be more efficient and frees up time to, take on much more complex queries. So, but it's always when there's a change in technology, how do you align the team on, let's figure this out. Let's see how best to use this. Can you walk us through within your own team, or let's say within Iterable, when AI was being implemented, how did you get the team together to say that, okay, let's do this. This is the objective and what we want to get out of it?
Yeah. So I think it'll all start with what you're using AI for and how you and how you want to frame how you're framing that, really. So when we first got the Ada and the chatbot, it was so that we can service people who don't have access to chat. And so that didn't really affect our team very much. And if anything, if the chatbot can deflect some questions from going to email, that's great.
Yeah.
That means that's a ticket that we don't have to work on. We can work on other tickets because we do have high volume. So that really helped in that sense. In terms of getting Zendesk AI to work for us, it's meant to help us save time. So we actually literally just demoed this for the team yesterday, just like, hey, here's a summary right here. This is going to help you save time and understand quickly what's going on with the ticket and help you get through your queue faster. This other generative tool can help you. All you need to do is just write down bullet points, and this will turn it into a sentence that you can present to someone. Yeah. So, and then for us, it's been really helpful because our team is very lean. So anything that we can introduce to really help with efficiency and just make things easier for everybody, I think has been really helpful. It's like, yes, please let me use that. So that's what I hope our team can see this as.
Got it. And as Premier support, like you mentioned, there's multiple channels through which customers reach out, Slack also being one. Do you use something on Slack as well or like how do you use AI within Premier support specifically?
Yeah, so currently we don't use AI within Premier support because a lot of the interaction is just between the agent and the customer, and there is that, deep relationship that needs to be built. I feel like there's not too much that generating responses can really do for us right now. However, I as a manager would love to use AI to be able to, as an internal tool, to be able to find out like, hey, this ticket is probably going to get escalated, or like, hey, this ticket is highly impactful because of this information given by the customer. Like AI that I can use to report a lot better, to improve internal processes to make the agent experience better and the customer experience better. Like that's what I'm excited for.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, like, you've gone through this cycle of implementing AI across multiple vectors, like, customer facing side, manager and agent. So what advice do you have for support leaders who are thinking about the early journey of implementing AI? What would you recommend to them?
Sorry, so your question was for anyone who maybe hasn't implemented it yet, that is looking to, or is it like depending?
Yeah, like who are just starting out or maybe about to like implement AI or early in the journey, like, what would be your recommendations for them, or what should they watch out for?
I think in general, like if you want to adopt AI, like first understand what AI is going to do for your business. Like, is it going to taking the place of something? Is it enhancing something? Does it match what is important to your customers or to like your own business values? Really that, like, you don't want to just adopt a tool just for the sake of adopting a tool. And so, once it is aligned, then it's like, okay, we know that this is going to be the goal of this tool. Let's go and look and evaluate. And I think what's going to also be important is just knowing what you need out of it. Like different tools provide so many different solutions, but it just has to work with your business and why you need it. So like, I'm trying to think of an example of why I would do something a certain way. Like, sorry, it's kind of on the spot. I can't really think of anything right now.
Nice.
Yeah, like maybe for example, if a tool is giving you like this score means negative, or they're able to make it very negative. Like maybe negative doesn't necessarily matter to you, but like very negative does, and just like why does that matter, and being able to share that with whoever it is that you're working with to see if like to really make it work for you. Because if it's like maybe negative really does matter, and your goal is you really want to create a super positive experience for your customer, like knowing what matters to you as a business and what matters to you in your customer experience and agent experience is really important before getting any tool.
Got it. I think the nuances like are different for each team and each support leader. So it's not about just implementing the tool. Like I think, like you rightly said, the first apprehension is like accuracy, getting it right, and the second, does it serve the use case and helps you drive the objectives like towards your customers. Okay, I think those were the questions I had around AI. We just have a few questions, like, just to wrap up. But I'm like curious to know, support is always a role which is demanding, because again, it could be a variation of queries coming in, especially with premier support. You're also committing to high quality support always. So as a support leader and managing a team in this, like, how do you balance between the work and like personal life? Like, what it's definitely challenging. So, what's your advice to other support leaders, and how do you sort of maintain, like, sanity?
It's a great question. I should know this because balance is one of our values at Iterable, but in all honesty, it is still something that I'm working on. You know, but I do think the most important thing that I'm trying to do right now is just really closing that laptop at the end of the day. But not only doing that, like kind of be like, okay, at this time, like 5:30 or 6, I'm gonna go on a walk. Like I'm gonna just leave, or maybe and in terms of balance, like sometimes there are days where you do need to put in some extra time. And so when you do have that, then there are other days where you can make up for that and maybe do something for yourself a little earlier or things like that. So whenever it is to not only just turn off the laptop, like just get out of wherever it is that you're working, being able to leave a door, like a door frame, really helps your brain. Like I think it's a part of your brain where it's like, oh, the memories or like the recent memories you have like kind of live in that room. So when you leave, you can kind of start over. So being able to like literally just leave, I think is a really great way to disconnect and make it so that you're like, okay, now it's time for me. So I think if anything, that's why it's so important to just go on a walk, like go outside, do something, like be able to just literally like leave, if anything, leave the room to be able to kind of get your head back on and get things straight.
And yeah, I try to do that as well. So we have two dogs, so take them for a walk whenever I need to like disconnect.
Yes.
That always helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Furry friends. Dogs are so helpful for that.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the team is like spread across multiple offices. So given it's probably like a role where, it's more like, you're handling multiple queries but you're not the team like on a single table. So does the team come together? Like, how do you share learning and so help each one progress to the next level in their career, personal development, and so on? So like, do you guys like do in-person get-togethers as well for this, or like virtual meetups?
Yeah, so to kind of answer your question like backwards a bit. So
Yeah, sure.
when we're talking about in-person meetings, so yes, we do try to have in a team on sites, and they're all going to be depending on region because you can't just have the entire support team in a spot. It's going to be really hard. So we do break it up by region and try to make sure and try to bring everybody, like everyone in that region on the team, like one of our offices, to be able to one, get together, spend time together. We also use that time to do some development, like bring in some folks from a different team to explain some stuff about their team, or go through some exercises like learning and development all together so that they can learn and grow a bit of their skills there. As a company, we also try to come together once a year as a company so that we can all, kick off the year that way. I'm kind of going backwards from your question, like, or kind of going backwards to kind of like what every day looks like. We have managers have one-on-ones with their direct reports, and we all try to make sure that our direct reports are as close in region as possible. And then kind of day to day. So we do have, so we use Slack, obviously, and we have channels that agents can use to ask each other questions because it is we're very distributed. And so like the easiest thing to do, we have to do most of our communication is going to be asynchronous. So there is a channel where you can ask your questions. Other agents can answer those questions. And, they have now developed a process where like, if it's been answered, they like react with a specific emoji. If it hasn't been answered yet, there's another specific emoji. And then starting during COVID, when everybody was really working from home, we also created something called a study hall. So sometimes agents, like twice a day, they would just start a Zoom room and anybody would just join, and it would be study hall. And it was supposed to mimic like being in an office where you could just be like, hey, question for you, like just a quick sanity check. Am I thinking about this right? And so now we do that in study hall over Zoom. and it's been great. They fire it up like twice a day to something like that, depending on their availability, and it's great. We were talking about skills obtained through alternative routes.
Yeah.
One big thing, of course, in order to even get before that is you want to just double check that your job description is able to take in people from different backgrounds as well.
Hmm.
So, for example, one thing is like removing. Sometimes you'll have a job description that's like requires like a degree. So
Yeah.
you want to remove that because that cuts out a lot of people. Or saying like, oh, you even saying something like 7+ years of experience doing
Mm.
XYZ. Um, you can even just remove that, like has experience, has good experience in working with customers or working with or
Yeah.
teaching things to people. So being able to change the language on your job description will make it so that people in alternative routes can apply and join your candidate pool.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think a lot of times we just follow standard hiring templates and tend to like, for this, like, we need 5 years of experience and so on. So it's great to just be aware of some of these things that it doesn't have to be a particular templatized like JD and so on. So, but yeah, like I love the philosophy. I think. Do you have like a page that talks about this more, like the approach at Iterable? And I can include it in the show notes as well because I find it like uh, the first time I'm hearing it and it's great. Yeah,
Um, yeah, so I don't have notes. We don't have anything.
no
I don't
worries.
have like notes or like a card or anything like that. But my manager actually presented diversity and hiring as a topic in one of the TSIA conferences a
Okay.
couple of years ago. So I can ask him and see if he's willing to kind of share that.
No,
If that
yeah,
resource is
okay.
available publicly, maybe I can ask him about that.
Sure. No pressure, no pressure. Cool. But no, it was great to hear about it. And lastly, I just wanted to know more on how do you learn more in the space? Like, I know, we connected with support driven, but are there what keeps you up to date and yeah, whether is it books or communities or yeah, like would love to hear more on that.
Yeah. So one big thing is support. So yeah, as you mentioned, support driven. That's how we met. That's how I like to keep up to date with things. Support driven has so many wonderful resources and so many people that I just like follow on LinkedIn. Um, but I think the way I'm able to get the most information and the way I obtain information the best is actually through conferences. So being able to go to TSIA, like their conferences, support driven, not only just the expo but the leadership summit,
Hmm.
that was really amazing. That's where we met, and that's where I learned
Yeah.
a lot of things. I try to read books on leadership, just
Hmm.
kind of little tidbits here and there, and just kind of other resources. Sometimes like Instagram will uh what is it called? Like advertise like things to me on like manager development and things like that. But otherwise it's to kind of keep into up to date on customer support. It's been people I follow on LinkedIn and support driven
Awesome.
and
Cool.
TSIA.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks so much, Rachel. This was really amazing to unpack your journey and also get your perspective on how you and Iterable approaches AI. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, thanks so much. Learned a lot, and especially the stars philosophy was really good to stumble upon that.
Yeah, great.
Um,
I'm so glad
yeah,
you got that takeaway.
yeah, no
Um,
worries.
oh, one thing
Sure, go
sorry, I
ahead.
forgot to mention another thing about keeping up to date with things. So, a lot of webinars. So, like,
Okay.
mostly TSI, but also I've been getting some like I get emails in my inbox, but sometimes they will have like webinars on certain topics that I'm interested in, like,
Yeah,
and they'll always have topics like how like agent efficiency, agent burnout, things like that. So, I also really like watching webinars. So. It's mostly that. It's support driven, TSI webinars, conferences, and LinkedIn.
got it. Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel. This was really
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Thanks for
I'm
taking the
so
time.
glad.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad you got this wonderful takeaway. I hope this has been helpful to people viewing and listening to this.